Good morning, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of From the Ground Up Real Time Issues with Real Time Solutions for MWBEs and Small Businesses. Brought to you by Queen Strategy Partners, Nicole Valentine Esquire, Danielle Douglas, and myself, Dr. Stacey N.C. Grant. We've had a great time being with you the first and the third Tuesday of every month, and we continued to carry the torch forward during COVID, this unprecedented reality that we've all been living in. And we did our best to bring you resources, information, experts that were able to help you as you navigated through this new normal. So, this June, we are doing a best of series because we're winding down our show and we want to celebrate all of you for being our listeners, our participants, sharing the broadcast, giving your commentary. And we want to celebrate some of the best of that have been on the show, offering their expertise and their talents. So today is part one, and June 21st will be part two as we get to share in all of the value that we have brought to the marketplace with From the Ground Up. But I have two more times to do my favorite part of the show. My favorite part of introducing the beautiful, the talented, the awesome, and dynamic co host herself, the one and only Danielle Douglas. Over to you, Danielle.
And as I always say, thank you, Miss Dr. Stacey N.C. Grant. I love you back. And, this is so bittersweet that we are coming to this point, or we have come to this point where we will be transitioning from doing from the ground up. It has been such a journey with you all. Oh my gosh. We decided to do this as an act of love and service to you all. We were like, what can we do to make a difference and have an impact and take this journey with other small business owners that are going through the same things we are as we are navigating COVID. And I hope you think we did a good job because, again, we came from a place of love when we did this, and we had some phenomenal guests. And I must say so myself. I know I always say this, that our guests always outdid themselves. I learned a lot from my guests on this show. And I see that with a level of humility, and I hope you did as well. And so we love you. And we hope that you enjoy this wonderful show with three of our illustrious guests who decided to come back and join us as we transition. And so I'm going to hand the mic back over to my co-host, Miss Dr. Stacey N.C. Grant, so she could introduce and tell you who our illustrious guests are this morning.
Well, thank you, Danielle. I'm going to give you a round of applause for the joy that it's been being able to provide this, as you said, as a labor of love. And today we have three individuals who have been on the show multiple times sharing real time solutions for real time issues as we've been traveling through. And I'm excited that we have our councilwoman who is probably in mid work representing us on New York City Council, but she has been actively working, advocating for businesses and community. And she has stopped by to share some additional news today. We have
Uh-oh.
another one of our human resource and talent experts, Latanya Pouncey here. And then we have another HR extraordinaire powerhouse in the building, Latoya Ellis Aline. So when you talk about the kind of content that your business needs, these women, and it just happens to be all women today. We've had the men on the show, but who runs the world? And ladies, we thank you for coming and being a part of our conversation. So before we get into the questions, I would just love for each of you just to share one highlight on what you are currently focused on in getting a message out to our MWBEs and small businesses. So we'll start first with our talent manager herself, Latanya Pouncey. Over to you.
So, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. It's a pleasure to be back for my fourth time during the time that you've had this show. So, I'm really excited. Um, I would definitely say the highlight for small business owners and MWBEs of all sizes, and just for those who are not MWBEs and even larger firms, is when we're talking about talent, it's just really important to, in this day and age, that you have to focus on flexibility and mental health and flexibility for yourself, as well as for your employees. Because if you don't take care of yourselves as business owners, then you can't take care of anyone else around you. That includes your employees and your families. So those are my two highlights when I think about just what we've gone through the last 2 years, where we're at now, and where we're going in the future. It really is about talent. It is a struggle. It continues to be a struggle. And one of those two big struggles are flexibility and, again, mental health. So we have to focus on that.
Thank you for that. And let me give you a round of applause, 4 times on the show. So we appreciate you. And I definitely want to go a little bit deeper on those two. So we're going to push a pin in it so that everyone can answer the question. But I think there's something to be said to circle back around the importance of flexibility and mental health. And hey, Mecca, thank you for tuning in. So same question over to you, Councilwoman Natasha Williams. What would you like to share as you are advocating for resources, for opportunities on the ground every day with a women-led New York City Council? Over to you, Councilwoman.
Well, good morning. I'm also happy to be here and seeing you guys virtually. I want to see you in person. I miss you. So in the council, as you mentioned, it is a majority women-led council. And so we've been really looking at existing policies for our MWBEs. How do we really break down the barriers and challenges that so many of our MWBEs face? Recently, actually, the mayor issued an executive order where he released or relaxed some of the stringent rules that a lot of small businesses have been facing and dealing with in the wake of COVID. And so continuing to work with the mayor's administration, continuing to work with my council colleagues to really support and build out the infrastructure for our MWBEs are some of the things that we've been focused on.
Well, thank you for your advocacy as well. And we're happy to hear that the mayor has heard some of the cries that have come out and what needs to happen in order to really see the kind of success and the numbers that are necessary. So we'll definitely circle back on that executive order because maybe some people watching didn't even know. Did you know you had a blessing? So we thank you. But our councilwoman is here to share that with us. And then, of course, when it comes to human resources, when it comes to really understanding risk and what you need to be aware of. I mean, who else better to share with us what is currently on the pulse of what's happening in community but Latoya Ellis-Aline, over to you.
Always a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me. One of the nuggets that I would like to leave our audience with is listen to your employees. They're on the ground, they're doing the work. Tune into them, listen to them, take your cues from them, because ultimately they are the lifeblood of your organization and you will need them in order to be successful in terms of your deliveries to your customers. The other thing here is work-life rhythm. Balance is not always possible, but as long as you have some sort of rhythm that allows you to focus on self-care, whether it be for you and also time for your family members, and instill that by way of extension to your employee workforce, we would have been successful in infusing wellness and an emphasis on rhythm as it pertains to executing your work responsibilities and trying to be whole yourself.
Wow, that I tell you, let me just give you some horns. Just because I love all of the sound effects, but I do appreciate that content. And we'll circle back on just underscoring the mental health piece and the balance and the opportunities that are available and the self-care and really making sure that everyone is whole. But Danielle has a couple of fun questions that we're going to get into now as well so that we can share that with the audience.
So I actually, if you don't mind, Stacey, I want to, can we kind of address some of it'll be a smoother process to what our guest shared with us? First of all, I do want to thank Councilwoman Natasha Williams personally, because I really want to share with the audience, especially if you live in Southeast Queens, that she really is trying to make an impact. And I know that personally. I called her and I shared with her that we had an issue on our block. And I'm part of a WhatsApp channel with my neighbors, so we can do things together on the block and make sure our block is what it should be. And they were throwing things out there, and I said, you know what, I'm going to reach out to Councilwoman Natasha Williams, and I did. And can I tell you, the situation was rectified in 48 hours.
Woo-hoo.
And yes, so I just want to say that sometimes there were there was no callbacks. I reached out, and again, it was taken care of within 48 hours. And actually, one of my neighbors, if I could, Councilwoman Williams, I would have literally screenshot, but Stacey will tell you I'm not that good technically, because I was going to screenshot you, because I told them, I told them again, you were the reason that it happened. And one of my neighbors was like, thank you. I'm going to send her or call the office to thank them. And actually, she has my vote the next time around. So I just want you to know that. So when you do things from the heart and you really live up and embody what you're supposed to do for the community, it comes back. So thank you. I wanted to say that. But
I love it.
And I wanted to bring that up because community, part of mental health, part of wholeness and everything we're talking about is there's a community to that. And we have community in different ways, right? We have community with our family. We have community with our friends. We have community with the civic, associations. There's so many ways that we have community. And it's interesting because I was just listening as I was cutting up my fruit this morning about mental health. That's why this is really interesting to me. And one of the things that they talked about is, as humans, we do have a need to have a sense of community. And that's now more than ever. So even though we're here virtually, we are still in community. And the other thing is that, we have to take a moment in our busyness to take deep breaths. It can be as simple as taking a moment and just breathing. And I have to say this admittedly, usually I take like 45 minutes to an hour in the morning to say my prayers and to literally deep breathe, to kind of get me centered for the remainder of the day. And it makes a huge difference because it allows me to have an opportunity to kind of listen to my spirit, to my soul, and to my body, because your body speaks to you as well and lets you know, where you're holding energy, and things like that. So I just wanted to share that because I think it sounds simple. It's something extremely, extremely important. But in our busyness, oftentimes we don't do these things. So
absolutely. I mean, Danielle, even Apple realized that mindfulness is important. So they incorporate that on your watches and even on your iPhone. It'll send you an alert if you set up your app to say, breathe, stand, move. And, it seems simple, but to your point, it can make a difference. And we have Mecca and Captain Nadira Brown who are listening in, and that's what they focus on, right? One does the exercising and Mecca does the deep breathing. So it's something that small businesses can do literally at your desk. It doesn't cost anything to breathe, thank God. So you can breathe and you can pause and take a minute, even just getting up from your seat. Because working from home, we blurred the lines. And I believe we talked about that on previous shows where you just keep going, and you forget to eat, forget to stand and move around. And that does play a role on mental health. Even going out for a walk, now that spring has finally sprung, taking time to go out and get some vitamin D naturally. I mean, that's critically important. So I'm glad that LaTanya brought that up about that mental health piece and flexibility. When you started, Daniel, that spurred something else up in me. The flexibility part. Can we just all chime in a little bit on that? Because we can no longer be as rigid as we were pre-COVID. We just can't. with ourselves or with those who work with us, we have to provide some grace. And in providing that grace, you give people room and opportunity. Thanks, Captain Brown. You give people room and opportunity to show up in their best selves. So I'll pull up some resources, Danielle, while you go into the next portion, because we shared before about mental health support. Don't suffer in silence. It is not a crime to get help or to have a counselor or to engage in resources. That's how you are stronger. And we have to stop making it a stigma within our communities and our business owners and normalize the practice of having somewhere that you can go and release and share and just have a third party opinion about how you process your day-to-day operations.
Yes. And I also want in flexibility, I also want to acknowledge something that Latoya said, and that's rhythm. That really resonated with me because for me personally, my theme for 2022 is balance. And in that, I am trying to learn how to be intentional on a daily basis because we say, oh, balance, but how do you integrate that? Fortunately, I have the opportunity to work from home. So you know what? If I'm, stressed out and I want to take a walk at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and come back and get some work done, that's the flexibility. But that also establishes a level of rhythm for me, rhythm in the context of balance. So I just wanted to kind of marry those two as Miss Dr. Stacy talked about us talking about flexibility. I would love to hear, Latonya, what you thought about with flexibility and what you felt about with rhythm, Latoya. But for me, I kind of married the two. So I'll start, Latoya, if you could talk what you meant by flexibility.
I mean, for me, flexibility in the workplace can range and vary from something as simple as, to your point, having the freedom to be able to set your own schedule and take a break, walk away from the computer. If you need to go pick up your children from work, or go do a community activity in the middle of the day. Flexibility in the workplace requires trust. And so employers need to try as best as they can to demonstrate said trust, as long as the work is being done and laws are being followed, right? Because there are two different categories of employees: exempt, non-exempt. For those who are non-exempt, you don't necessarily, as an employer, need to watch the clock with them. But for the hourly employees, of course, they need to clock in and clock out. That being said, and now that that part of the policy and procedure is taking place, you really do need to consider what the employees need. And it will look different for everybody. Rhythm looks different for everybody, but the open-mindedness is what is necessary in order for you to be able to, again, tune in, to be empathetic, to get a sense for what the needs are, and then to be able to meet them in order to ensure that you have a positive employee experience for those who work with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And Latanya, is there anything you want to add to that?
Sure. Latoya, she hit it right on the head. And, I'm a big proponent of flexibility. And I can't tell you the number of leaders who have spoken to me about when it has been time for when their employer has said that, they have to now come back to work. They've been upset about that. I can't tell you the conversations that I've had with other employers about the need to be flexible. The statistics and the reports that have been compiled and shared throughout the pandemic, to share the number one item that employees are looking for is flexibility. And that is simply the ability to work from anywhere. And so, as Latoya mentioned, we have to have these conversations, and it requires trust on both ends. Now, we understand that not every role is going to allow you to work from home. But just because the role doesn't allow you to work from home, that doesn't mean that we can't consider other flexible options. And when we're not flexible, that means that we're putting restrictions and barriers not only on the employees, but on ourselves, in the organization as a whole. You're not allowing the employees to thrive. And then therefore, if the employee is not simply thriving, then that means there's a limit on production, innovation, creativity, etc. And all of those things lead to a decrease in revenue at the end of the day. But people, if you're not really in tuned into your business, you're not thinking that far ahead. And you have to think that far ahead because your employees are your capital. Those are your assets. So you have to think about that. And you have to be willing to be open-minded, as mentioned, to have the conversation. And what happens is that you will have managers, and sometimes people will allow their own biases, their own issues, their own concerns to really come in because they're not able to do something. They automatically think that the employees that they oversee, the department that they oversee, is not able to or will not do it. And you just simply cannot move forward in today's environment with that type of mentality, because you will have significant turnover very, very quickly. And there are employees who are leaving constantly because they're looking for other opportunities. And flexibility is part of your work culture. And so employees don't leave organizations; they leave bosses, their managers, because the managers, the employees, we all set up the culture, and so it has to start from the top. And if the culture is not flexible, you're just simply going to have that turnover. And so it's just very, very critical. And I'm constantly having those conversations with leaders, and I will continue to have that conversation because it is necessary, it is needed, and we can do it. We simply can't. We can simply do it. Flexibility is not. It's just not tunnel vision on just simply, again, working from home. It's the ability to work from anywhere and work in different types of environments and in different formats. And that's what we need to be thinking about.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And Councilwoman Natasha, we don't want to leave you out. If you want to add anything to the conversation at this point, we know you have something to add, but at this point, in regards to flexibility and rhythm.
No, I mean, I think you all said it best. I mean, I'd say now coming into a space of like being an employer, and not an employee, trying to figure out that balance for my team is really important. I've always personally liked flexible work environments. Any work environment that was not flexible for me, I just didn't work for me. So I also try to make sure that I'm being flexible. And, I think it's important. I agree with everything you all said. I'm also taking my own notes as well to make sure that I'm doing the best that I can now, having people that are working for me.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Danielle, I just wanted
go ahead. I'm sorry, Stacy.
I just wanted to jump in. I was showing this article, which I thought was a comedy, looking at the photo of the gentleman working in the waiting pool in the back. But it's a work-life balance is a cycle, not an achievement. And I think that's an important message, that everything that was shared so far reminds us that you're constantly figuring it out. Just like our councilwoman said, being in a different position now, trying to be mindful of what is implemented and how to balance all these different roles, that we give ourselves some grace and celebrate the small wins along the way, instead of waiting for this one perfect oasis that we're working towards. How do we show up, one, as our best selves as an employer? How do we create space for employees to show up and feel whole? And how are we intentional, like Mecca said, that her business provides organizations with self-care days, so that it's encouraging the employees to thrive, knowing that they have holistic ways to release. So that's like very intentional for a company to go ahead and invest in on the clock time. You're getting to learn coping mechanisms and self-care days where everyone feels a part of what Danielle mentioned earlier, community. Because when you're attached and you feel a part of community, then the work output, it goes through the roof, because you're happy, you're invested, and you're like, yeah, when I come, I'm coming to share all of me and the best of me. So this is, I don't know about y'all, but this is good to me. All right, Danielle, back over to you.
Well, that again, not to like pat ourselves on the back, even though I'm like patting ourselves on the back, is that even though the intention of today, and we're going to get to this in the next, before we end for the next portion of this show, but we come from a place that we always want to give information and value. That's just the culture and the heart space where we come from. So I'm very full in the sense of enjoyful that we spent some time to kind of connect on this way. And as we transition, and now ask you guys, you both have been, all three of you have been on the show multiple times. Why did you always say yes? And this time, I'll start with Councilwoman Williams, because everybody's been on the show at least 3 or 4 times. And in your busyness, as everybody's busy, you still, each of you, found the time to say yes to come on the show and be here with us. So why did you, that says a lot to me. So I would love to hear why you always was willing to say yes.
Well, I cannot say no to my soror and also my like auntie / big sis, Dr. Stacy NC Grant. So that's just like, I can't say no. Like, what do you mean? There's no no. So that's first. But, you know, the second reason is that you all are doing such amazing work. And you said it best, Danielle, like this is coming from the heart. You know, this is coming from a place of wanting to share much needed information to the community. And so why not support that effort? And so, and also, I think it's important that these spaces are created to share information. Oftentimes, I always say, you know, we have an information deficit. So there are a lot of resources and support and knowledge out there, but we often don't have the access to that information. So this platform creates that space for this information to be shared. And so I just, you know, of course, again, I cannot say no and really support the effort.
And we love you for it.
Yes, I did on that. And Latanya?
So I would agree. I have had the pleasure to know Dr. Stacy NC Grant for a couple of years through some wonderful organizations, one being Black Women of Influence, seeing her at BE Power, Women of Power Summit, and she has always poured into me. Stacy and I would run into each other and we would just smile, always connect. And it just grew into a beautiful friendship. And so when she asked me, I was so honored because I know the influence and the work that she does and the connections that she has. And I also am connected through her, you know, through the MWBE space. I see the work that she does, you know, through the New York, New Jersey Port Authority. And I'm just so proud of her. And anytime that I ask, she always makes time. She can just be whipping through those airports, but she will say, come, this time will work, and you can get on the phone with her, ask her questions, and she will take time to pour into you. So I think when people do that, you have an obligation to pour back into them and to share your knowledge and your resources with others. Because as Councilwoman Natasha Williams indicated, we lack information, and it's in pockets. And so when you bring it all together to a platform like this, it really allows us to come together, share the information, learn from one another, network, and just pour into others who look like us, and who just sometimes we just don't get the information. I have learned so much from being on the platform, listening to the platform, and participating in just other networks like your own, Danielle, that you have. So I'm just happy to be a part of it, and I definitely will continue to say yes. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And last but not least, Latoya.
Well, I think our stories are all quite similar in that we have a hard time saying no. My soror, Daniel Douglas, invited me to the conversation, and God knows I can't find enough time to do everything else I have to do, but I couldn't say no to her. And so for me, as we continue, one of my favorite quotes is, "Service is the rent that we pay for living on this earth," by Shirley Chisholm. And the reason it resonates with me is the fact that there are so many underserved. And as we pour into ourselves, one of the responsibilities that we have is to ensure that by extension, we get the information out to those who need it. And this was an amazing way to be able to pay it forward and be that change that we always, I think all of us want to see in the world. And so for those reasons, I have always showed up. And of course, the indomitable Dr. Stacey NC Grant ended up presenting at a conversation, a DEI conversation with my organization, and it became a full circle moment for all of us because I did not realize that she was also in my other circles. So we continue to pour into each other and we continue to pay it forward. I think that's the best way to approach it. And I think that that resonates with all of us here.
Yes. And I, the older I get, the more I realize we are not separated by like 6 degrees of separation. It's like 1.5.
Exactly.
And the older I get, the more I realize that's why you got to be careful of what you do, right? Because you just never know how it's going to, show up and stuff. So thank you for all of you constantly, ladies, for saying yes. And so my other question is, you all have had the opportunity to serve as a guest, but also as a listener of the show as well. Latanya, you just noted that sometimes you came in just to hear about a certain subject matter. And so what legacy do you think the show will have? I would love to hear that because we think we know the impact that we're having, but we don't quite know. So I would love to hear what legacy that you think the show is going to have as we close out. So I'll start with this time. Latanya, I'll start with you.
Okay, sure. I think the legacy will be that you're just simply providing strategies, tools, and resources to queens and kings. I'll add the kings there too, because, this is, Queen Strategy Partners. We're all here as queens. We do know that not only in the workplace, but also in business, women, particularly women of color, we have, we lack access to resources. We lack access to sponsors and mentors. And so we have to come together to provide these resources and be of value to other queens like ourselves. We have queens that are pouring into us, so we have to be queens and pour back into queens and also our kings. And I've seen that here on this show, and I know it will continue in other avenues and ways. I'm hoping that this will actually could potentially be a live in-person event down the road, hint, hint. But I think just the legacy will just be, again, the strategies, the tools, and the resources that you set out from the beginning to do. It will be that, because that is truly what you did. You brought in the resources and the tools that business owners need to have in order to build their business, in order to have them thrive and be successful. And that's through government, state, and city contracts, making sure that you have the right types of insurances for your businesses, that you have the right types, that you're thinking about compliance matters as relates to HR, talent, how to grow your employees, how to keep and retain your employees. So, you're thinking about all operations and aspects of the business, including, marketing and operations. So I think that people will miss it, but they can always go back and tune into it. And I think you're leaving a great legacy behind.
Thank you. And I have to say, Latanya, in regards to an event, as I'm sure you know, Dr. Stacey, she has her Faithpreneur 3-day event that she does in August in honor of her grandmother, right? And she kind of taps into everything that you just said. And then I have the Black Business Owners Forum, which is a 1-day event that I do in October, the middle of October, in regards to, again, giving information that could impact. So you're right. It's kind of woven into the thread of what we do collectively. as well as the things and initiatives that we do individually in our respective businesses. But we kind of bring that together in the spirit here to continue to try to have impact. And with that said, Councilwoman Natasha, we're
I feel like oftentimes these type of things, you don't know exactly what the impact is because you can't really measure it. But I always say, like, even if it helped one person, that was like one person that was served by way of this platform. And I think that's the most impactful thing of all. And so I know that people tuned in to watch live, or now internet things live forever. And so if they weren't tuning in live, they can always go back and replay it. And I think that is so critically important, especially because you all do things outside of this platform. You have a lot of people that you're connected to. And so when they scroll down your pages and, see this is something that's like a tool and resource that will live in perpetuity. And I think that's so powerful and impactful, because I know maybe I didn't catch the lives, but there was quite a few times that I like went on, one of your pages and like looked at a previous recording, just to see what folks were talking about. And so I'm sure so many people actually do that. And that is, to me, like the true success story, that you now have created an archive of information that'll live on the internet for people to always go back and view.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And again, last but not least, Latoya.
I think a very, very important legacy that you all have left is community. You mentioned it earlier, Danielle. I mean, ultimately, you have created a safe space for like-minded individuals, regardless of gender, race, etc., to get together and be each other's resources as you are bringing resources to them so they can navigate. Representation, right? Each one teach one. We are able to see the work in action, or the struggles, or the challenges. We have candid conversations about them, and also, as always, provide the resources to be able to navigate those challenges. But I think the safety and the like-mindedness that is created in this space is one that will be really powerful as a legacy. And access to capital, access to resources, access to networks, I think has been three of the things that I think you will have left for MBEs, MBWEs, as well as anyone whom is listening into these conversations.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you.
Oh, you all are making me tear up.
I know you.
But
I'm like,
oh, but thank you from the heart. I just want to shout out Dawn Kelly said the same thing. Latoya, what each one teach one another, frequent guest on the show. And hey, Jason, thank you, my brother, for being here as well and participating. And all of your answers lets us know that this was not in vain, and that the work that we provided in business owners right on this show, like Mecca, were able to take advantage of some of the guest opportunities and start to immediately implement and collaborate. And that's really joyous, because that's all we have once we transition, right? And we know it's been a rough road watching different things happen especially the last 3 years, that we want whatever we do to outlive us. And thank you for sharing those generous remarks on our legacy. Danielle, I just had to insert that because I need some tissue.
By all means. And you know what? And again, building upon what Latoya said, and I see Mecca said, yes. Mecca came, something I was doing with the nonprofit organization that I have, the Council for Black Business Enterprises. Mecca came on the webinar we did for Women's History Month on giving tribute to Black women trailblazers in business. And she asked a question, and she ended up being connected to actually one of my sorors that I pledge with, because they both had spouses in the military. And I don't know, Mecca, that's a conversation we can have offline. I hope that you and Monaco had a chance to actually connect and help, because that was something that Mecca wanted to do. So it's like, you guys are saying, it's like this ripple effect in regards to us being able to help each other and expand our network to be able to do the things that we want to do for us to live out our dream as good people and entrepreneurs. Oh, good. She said they have been connected. Good. I'm glad to hear that.
So if I could, I'm sorry, just kind of add on to your conversation that you were sharing about Mecca. I had the pleasure to meet Mecca the beginning of May down in Tampa, Florida, at Lucinda Cross's Big Ask event. From that event, we're doing she put us into groups, and Mecca and I are in a group where we're collaborating with some others, just thinking about just building the network and what we could potentially do, in the future together. So I've had the pleasure of speaking with her and being connected with her. And it's just so funny how small your circles can be and how you can meet one another in the state or across the state lines. But it's been a pleasure. And I've also met Nadira a couple of times. And so part of, a circle with her as well. So it's just beautiful to see these ladies, here joining in on the conversations this morning.
Absolutely. And Diana Rose, who is here as well, she and Dawn, pending their availability, will be a part of the part 2 in the closeout series on the 21st. And they've been offering and sharing information. And I love that you mentioned being together in Tampa, because everyone that knows me knows my life is all about relationships. And Lucinda is my little sis from way back when she was doing Corporate Mom Dropout. And one of my honorees for my event that Danielle mentioned. But to see all the connections, that's what life is about. How can you connect with other brilliant and amazing individuals and continue to make magic happen? That's what we're here on earth to do. I think fundamentally is to give the best of who we are at all times. And that's going to automatically put you in company of all these amazing individuals. Oh my goodness. Everyone is chiming in. I can feel Dawn. Dawn, thank you, my sister. And she's actually an honoree for my 2002 event. It's also starting, right? That's another
2022.
lesson.
2002.
2022. Thank you. So, child, I didn't have any coffee this morning. But, to be able to celebrate and continue to celebrate all of the things that are happening in community, she and Diana. And this is year 5. Danielle was with me when the dream was birthed, and now we're into year 5, but you have to start. And if you've been watching the show, if you've been tuning in, we've been giving you resources, real-time solutions for real-time issues, but we've also been demonstrating how to shift. We started the show with Danielle talking about pivoting. So many people had to pivot when COVID happened. They created new versions of their businesses. They changed some of the ways in which they were offering products and services. If you've learned anything, move and take action. Just keep going forward. If you fail, so what? Fail fast and fail forward. No one has had a perfect run. Everybody has to go through iterations, and you get to those solutions that make you stronger, and you have the right people around you so they can encourage you on your journey. So thank you so much for that. And Mecca is sending out the emojis too. And Dawn said, we are all transforming our communities together. Exactly. That's what it's about. So I think we have about 1 more or 2 more questions before we start to round out today's show. And Diana says she crashed one of our first meetings.
Oh my God. Yes. For Jars of Delight. For sure.
Jars of Delight. Sure. Yes, and it was delicious. We were like, wait a minute, there's a whole salad in this jar. And look where you have grown, Diana, from that.
Wait. I have to do this. And Diana, what does that say?
She recycled the jar.
Yes, I want to show Diana that. Yes. And Diana, I hope you had a chance. I think you did connect with Kay Glover as well. So, hope that works out also.
So if I can just jump in here to speak about community and connecting, everyone seems to have a connection with Mecca. So I'm just going to go ahead and say it, that Mecca is one of the most hardworking people I know. Bless her heart. And she has this trait that is demonstrative of what every business owner needs to have, which is the ability to put the work in. Like faith without works is dead. Mecca saw me present on this session here in this forum, and she just reached out, and we have been partnering in business coaching. We've been partnering to just do some human resource related matters for her business. And so Mecca is just working hard and in order to get all those services out to the community. So shout out to you, Mecca.
All right.
I love it. we have to give Mecca a round of applause. And it all started because she was willing to say yes. And part of what I grow in my community of faithpreneurs is take advantage of all the information. That's how you thank me, is that you take action. And honey, she took it to a whole nother level. Anything that I'm on or connect to, Mecca's in the building, front row, center, raising her hand and making sure she's going to get her blessings. She's not waiting for somebody to give it to her. She's going to get it. And that's how you have to approach life and business. If you're passive and you're just kind of going through, it'll go right past you. But Mecca is making sure that not a blessing is going to pass her. And I thank you for sharing that, Latoya, because others need to hear that example, because sometimes we're in the background. We're kind of just watching, or we're sliding under the radar. Be bold, be bodacious, be brilliant. That's how we were created. And that's how you make the headway that you need in order to get the results that you have. And, our councilwoman, she made history. Everybody knows how biased I am. That's my Tasha, right? So she made history though. And I don't know if we all realize that she's the first African-American woman to hold this council seat on New York City Council for our district. So I need to give her some horns.
And wait, I have to say this. I'm sorry, Stacey.
Right.
I just want to say this because the one thing, and I want to say this to her personally, and I hope it came through when I text you to congratulate you. But I have to say, and I mean this sincerely, you worked your behind off. So building upon what Latoya just said, you deserve to be the councilwoman because you were out there in the streets, pounding the pavement, getting your message out. You were on the show, but that's just one piece of it. You definitely was like, this is mine and I'm going for it and I'm working hard. And, so I just want to say you are well deserving of it because you busted your behind. My friend, she's a Sora too, Kim. I think you may know Kim Williams. She's a Sora. We grew up together right here. We still both living in. She said you knocked on her door and it was pouring down, raining. I don't know I'm not even going to say where Kim lives, but when you were walking with somebody else in the pouring down rain, I was like, near Tasha, it's pouring down raining, but you were out there pounding the pavement, doing what you had to do. So I'm like, well, she ain't knock on my door, but you had your good, faithful substitute, Miss Dr. Stacey C. Grant. She knocked on my door for me. She literally knocked on my door, but she knows she's at my door more than for multiple reasons. But that day, she literally knocked on the door.
It was
like, I'm coming.
So many doors. It's so many doors. It's like impossible, which is it keeps me up at night because I would love to just knock on doors and talk to people. That's the thing I like to do. I don't like to do any of the other things, like the real political stuff. You can throw that away. But like talking to the people and getting to know the people and helping people, everyday people, is my thing. But there's so much doors. I had like over 20,000 doors to do. And I did a lot of them myself. I did close to 10,000 doors myself. But you just can't get to 20,000 doors in like 4 months. It's just impossible. So that's why you have to rely on like trusted messengers, like friends and family. We had to hire canvassers, but I really appreciate the words. And I was actually just on this radio segment and talking about leadership because I'm just now looking at myself as a leader. I know it's crazy, but I'm transparent about that. And so it's it's been an adjustment. And even listening to you say like you work so hard, you know, I'm like always never thinking I'm doing enough. And so I appreciate what you said, because it helps me internalize and, you know, just grow into the leader that I know I am. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. You are well
absolutely.
deserving of it. You busted your behind for it. So
She
yes.
did. And assembled what I think I enjoyed the most, besides telling everybody they had no other choice but to vote for her, was seeing how she was intentional on bringing everyone to the table, to see how every single nationality, religious orientation, background felt like they had a space to be able to speak and to have their voice heard from a candidate who really cared. And it wasn't just a campaign speech or showing up to kiss babies and shake hands, but they felt one of us was going to have an opportunity to represent us. And to see her do that, to see her intentionality around creating a transition team, and I was honored to be on it, to see how she hired staff that had innovative and young ideas, and how she holds them accountable to making sure that every constituent, just like Danielle sent a message out, she's on that for everybody, not just because she happens to know Danielle, but because that is her commitment. And that's what she is saying through the audience of everyone who is watching and listening. I am here to serve. And that is what she is doing. And that's where the leadership is coming from. And our other guests are bosses in their industry. Like when it comes to talent, you don't have to question whether or not Latanya knows what she's doing. She can do this with her hands tied behind her back and be able to create strategies and talents when it comes to human resources and understanding internally how to create that power structure that allows all of the employees and the considerations to be there. Latoya knows, and that's why she's on the show. We were intentional about bringing the best of the best. And we can't bring everybody back who's been on the show since our inception, but we're grateful that we get 2 rounds to show you some highlights from some of our power leaders. It just happens to be the ladies all today, but we're grateful for all of our guests who took the time out, from our elected officials to constituents within our communities that have businesses, to experts and subject matter experts like we have today. Everyone had a part to play in helping Danielle and I deliver on the promise of bringing real-time solutions to real-time issues. So as we start to wind down,
I have one more thing.
Sure.
As I want to also, and Latanya, please don't, because we love you too, but I want to give a special shout out to Latoya, because I hope you don't mind me saying this, Latoya. But Latoya was sick, and she and her family had COVID, and she emailed us, and I was like, by all means, you make sure you get better. Like, don't even worry. And she's here looking all fabulous.
Yes.
And so that just shows you the commitment that people have, like we said about community, that folks are living, they're not just saying it to be saying it, they're actually living what we're talking about, being of service. And, you know, so I just wanted to acknowledge that, because I think that was huge that you are here this morning in the midst of what you know, you and your family. It wasn't even just you, your family, your whole family had it. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Absolutely. So ladies, we're coming down to the last few minutes of the first in our installment of Best of series. I want to shout out and thank everyone who has been tuning in live. Mecca, Captain Nadira Brown, thank you always for your service. To Dawn, to Diana, to Jason, to our other Facebook listeners that we might not see your name. And if you're catching the replay, we want to say thank you for being a part of an experience. Everything in life contributes to the full embodiment of how we use the gift. Every moment is a gift, and you all have been a part of our gifts in being able to share this with you. We hope that you continue to utilize the information, go back and catch the replays so that you can not only implement it, but share it with someone else who might need the same sort of support and or information. And Danielle, thank you for being the dynamite fantastic, amazing, and beautiful co-host that you are, and how much fun we have had together on this journey of from the ground up, literally real-time issues and real-time solutions. So before Danielle gives the final closeout, as she customarily does, any final words this time? We'll start with Latoya.
Absolutely. COVID has forced us to have a growth mindset. Ultimately, we've been challenged with adjusting our approach or leadership style or emotional intelligence. And so it's really brought new meaning to the word grace. So as you use that word, and you must use that word now in your vocabulary as we speak about balance and rhythm and flexibility, please make sure that that word matches your action. There is grace for those who seek it. Extend that grace and make sure that your employees are aware that you continue to be attuned to their needs and they continue to matter.
Love it. Let me give you a round of applause. Councilwoman Natasha Williams.
I'll just use this time to thank you both for providing such an important platform to the community, and also urging folks, if you live within the confines of the 27th Council District, which is Cambria Heights, Queens Village, St. Albans, Hollis, parts of Springfield Gardens, and parts of Jamaica, if you have any issues, concerns, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm here to serve you. Help me help you. So I always encourage people to tweet me, Instagram me, email me, whatever platform you want to use. My office is still closed and only taking appointments, but we're open all the time and people just drop in. So feel free to drop in or call us for an appointment. We're located, I kept the same office as the former council member at 172-12 Linden Boulevard. My phone number is 718-776-3700. And you can email me at district27@council.nyc.gov. And I stress that because, sometimes people sort of suffer in silence. And then they get even more mad at government because they're like, nothing is happening. And so I always tell people, at the very least, tell me. My biggest thing when people complain, I'm like, you didn't tell me. So please tell me, please reach out to me. I cannot guarantee an immediate solution, but what I will guarantee, and what I said also when I was writing, is that I will try my hardest to figure it out for you. And hopefully we can get to a resolution, but it is really just a privilege to serve the community. So feel free to reach out to me. I'm here to serve you.
Well,
Awesome.
I have to say I raised the bar for you because I told you our issue was rectified in 48 hours. So sorry if I raised a huge bar, but this so happened.
It's a lot of issues we do solve quickly, right? Like illegal dumping. I saw somebody tweeted me earlier today with pictures of an illegal dumping site on 99th Avenue. Well, the Department of Sanitation has been working really closely with us, and we can probably get that cleaned up within, 24, 32 hours. So some things we can resolve quickly, which is why I just say reach out, because you don't have to suffer in silence, especially if there's an immediate solution. But some things, unfortunately, are not that immediate because government can be quite bureaucratic and complex and annoying. And so it requires a lot of work, some of these issues. But yes, we try to solve people's problems expeditiously, because my biggest thing is move it off your plate. So if we can move it off of our plate quickly, I love to do that. But I just always like to, set people's expectations that not all of the issues will be solved right away, but I will guarantee that I will work very hard to figure out a solution.
Well, you get a round of applause as well. Oh, I love it. And Latanya, we're coming over to you for your final thoughts before we start to close out. And hey, Bishop Sean, thank you for joining in today.
Sure. I would just like to say that for business owners, MWBEs, just know that you're not alone. Just take one day at a time, prioritize the things that you need to do. Every day, every minute, every hour, we are hit with so much information that is so overwhelming. But it's important that you take time to build your network, because again, you're not alone. There are other people that are out here going through things, who have gone through similar situations, and there are resources and tools out here that can help you. But if you don't take time to raise your head up, to ask the questions, to get out and network, then you won't, be able to really tap into those tools and resources in order to allow yourself, your employees, and your business to thrive. So it's really important that you do that. And so it's also important that we are intentional and that we execute. So we in order to thrive, we have to move. So we need to do that. But again, we don't have to do it alone. And I think one of the things that I had shared in a previous broadcast, when it really comes to talent, is that we just need to be mindful that when we make work better for humans, we make humans better at work. So again, just take your time, take one day at a time. I think, Dr. Stacey NC Grant, what you mentioned earlier about celebrating the small wins. We don't have to look from going from A to Z to achieve Z, but let's achieve B, C, D, and E, the things in between, and celebrate those small wins to help us get to the end goal. And again, just simply know that we're just not alone. But again, be intentional and execute on the plan. Execute. So that's what I would leave you with.
Oh, you get a round of applause as well. Thank you, thank you. And Dawn says she's off to sew and build. I love it. Well, we thank you all once again, and I'm going to turn it over to the beautiful and talented and amazing Danielle Douglas, who will officially close us out as we are right at the top of the hour.
Yes. Thank you, Miss Dr. Stacey C. Grant. That's my nickname. I always have to put the Miss before the doctor. I love you immensely. You are a sister friend. And so from my heart to yours, it's been wonderful to take this journey with you, as well as all of you ladies and those who tune in every other week. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so I know I'm going to be brief today. All I'm going to say is make it happen. And don't be standing knee deep in a river of water and be dying of thirst. There are resources out there for you. There are people here to help you. You got this. So we're looking forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks as we close out From the Ground Up, real-time solutions for real-time issues. I kind of said it backwards, but you guys got it. So looking forward to seeing you soon. But again, be good and make it happen.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Danielle. Thank you, Dr. Stacey NC Grant.
Welcome. Love you all. Love you all, and there's nothing you can do about it.